Back on the Senate substitute adoption, Senator from Shelby County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment.
Please send your amendment forward.
I'll explain it. If I move for its adoption and I waive reading of it, and I would explain it, if that would work.
Are you seeking a waiver of the reading, Senator?
I am.
Hearing
Yes.
no objection, waiver of the reading will be granted. You sent the amendment forward and move for its adoption. Senator, feel free to explain your amendment.
Okay, the underlying bill here is Senate Bill 379, and I'll tell you what's in this in my own words. In the wind energy business, counties sometimes assess things differently. So last year, we held a meeting with wind energy producers and county people and assessors, and we came to an agreement of how that would be assessed so that we don't have all these different assessments going on. So it was heard in the Commerce Committee and was voted out last week. House Bill 845 is the same thing, and it was voted out of their Utility Committee, 9-0, and it just makes a standard assessment across all counties. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
The Senator from Shelby County has moved for the adoption of Senate Amendment number 17 to the Senate substitute. Does any senator desire to be heard on that motion? Senator from the 23rd District.
I inquire, Senator from Shelby.
Senator from Shelby, do you yield?
I do.
She does and is excited about it. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator. So, Senator, I know this is an amendment that you've distributed on other bills, and I read the amendment, and it looks like all the language is in the first couple pages, primarily. Right. The
Correct.
Constitution requires that real property be assessed at real market value. That was actually related to a conversation I had with the senator from Platte on an amendment he offered earlier on this bill. But am I reading correctly that in the event that you actually have a wind turbine, that we're going to assess that a little bit differently, and we're going to assess it as a percentage of cost versus its market value? Is that right?
Well, if that's what it says, yes. And we came to this agreement with people who had wind energy in their counties, also counties who were getting wind energy, and held kind of a lengthy discussion in committee meeting about how to assess it so that we don't have disputes all across the state. And this is what we came up with.
Do you know of any other land or business property that is assessed as a percentage of their cost? So that, if I want to make sure this is, I'm saying this correctly. So if it costs $100 to put the wind turbine up, just the cost was $100, then we're going to assess it at, let's see, in year one, $40, in year two, $40, in year three, $37, and all the way down to $35. I don't know of any other property that I could own in this state that's assessed not at market value, but as a percentage of its cost. I mean, that's a pretty good deal if you own a wind farm, right?
I don't own a wind farm.
Not you. I mean the royal you in that case. You, all of us. If someone were to own, I know you don't own wind farms, but if someone owns a wind farm, they're getting an assessment rate now on the wind turbines that they own that nobody else in the state gets, right?
Well, as I said before, this was an agreement that was discussed at great length and involved the assessors from counties who do have wind energy, and it was something that everyone agreed on. So, maybe it's different, but it is something that all parties agreed to.
All parties, as far as the wind turbine owners? And
As far as county assessors, individuals within the county, landowners, there were probably 20 people there.
So, and all of these folks are going to benefit from a lower assessment, right? The property owners are going to benefit from a lower assessment. The wind turbine owners are going to profit from a lower assessment. The assessors, I agree that from the assessor's perspective, someone is going to have to, they want to make sure that we have a clear set definition of what we're actually going to, how we're going to assess something.
Well, I think what happens maybe is that if every county decides to do it in a different way, then you're setting a basis for anybody that is in that line of work to try to work with all these different disparate things. And so in the interest of deciding on something that people thought was fair, this is what they thought was fair. So if they think it's fair, I'm not sure why it is a problem for you.
Well, because the way every county ought to be doing it would be market value, and every assessor is charged with trying to determine the market value. And again, I just don't know of any new piece of business equipment or real estate that would be assessed, that would have a market value that's 40% of what people put into it. Because why would you invest that?
Well, I do think, I do need to note that this is how we currently assess wind farms in the assessor's manual.
Okay.
That's why they're currently doing it. So it was an agreement that that's the way everyone would do it.
Okay, yeah, and we keep saying everyone, and I'm not totally sure who you mean by everyone, other than
Well,
the
if you
people
have
that
an
are gonna
assessor
benefit.
and they have a manual and they can read, which I'm assuming they can, they're going to go there and look for what is the current method of doing this, and this is what's in the manual.
So let me ask maybe a different question then. Why don't we just allow all real property and personal property to be assessed at 40% of cost in the state of Missouri?
If you want to file that bill, you're welcome to.
Well, I could do an amendment to the amendment that'll just expand this percentage of cost to every piece of business property in the state of, I mean, because if it's good for wind turbines, it should be good for everything else, right? He's going to get you.
My shoulder is facing you.
So, do you see what I'm driving at here? So
Yeah, I see what you're driving at.
I don't dispute that the wind turbine owners and the real estate property owners got together and said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could assess our property for these new wind turbines at 40% of our cost? I don't dispute at all that they all thought that was a grand idea. But I would love, like my vehicle that I drive, I'd love for it to be assessed at 40% of its cost and just have to pay tax on that amount. I mean, the car dealers in the state, you know, if I could assess my house at 40% of its cost, that would be fantastic. That'd be a fantastic deal for me. I guess my question is, and I'm not saying that, hey, maybe 40% is the right case. I just think that if it's going to be 40% of cost, that should be applied evenly over everyone in the state.
Well, I do think that if you wanted to meet with what you would consider to be stakeholders and you want to take it to committees and they want to hear it and they want to provide their input and they want to pass it out of committee like this has been, you're welcome to do that.
Well, I guess one of my concerns is a lot of times when you do, like in this process, when you talk about stakeholders, the only stakeholders that you're talking about are the people that are going to benefit from the bill. So this strikes me as more of kind of a special interest benefit for one small group of people. In this case, it's the group of people that includes owners of wind turbines and owners of land that have a wind turbine on it. And you're right. I bet you if I filed a bill that put this level of assessment on everything, cars, homes, other business property, forklifts, trucks, you name it, that would probably then start to impact overall state revenues, and we'd get into the same discussion about, well, where are we going to get all the money from if we start giving everybody the ability to be assessed at 40% of cost? So again, my question is just, I don't know why, if you own a wind turbine or you own a piece of property that is fortunate enough to have a wind turbine on it, why do you deserve a deal that your property is going to be assessed at 40% of cost? Shouldn't it be everybody that's benefiting from that?
Well, like I said, if you would like to take it through the committees and go through that vetting process, I think you should do that.
Well,
if you don't want to vote for this, don't vote no.
Well, I think that I think what we should strive for is because we can legislate it here on the floor. I don't have a problem with that. But I think I'd like to see that, what's applying to wind turbines ought to apply to, say, cars. We've had a conversation in this chamber about personal property taxes on different things, but I just don't know why we would carve out. Do you know how many folks own a wind turbine in the state of Missouri?
No. No, I don't.
So I'm guessing it's a pretty small percentage of the population. Would you concur with that? Senator, I can tell this is frustrating. I tell you what, Senator, I'm going to have a couple other conversations, and we'll come back to this and chew on this a little bit more. Thank you, Senator. Mr. President?
Senator from the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I inquire of the senator from chamber here. Let's say the senator from the 2nd.
Senator from the 2nd, would you care to yield to an inquiry from your junior colleague in St. Charles?
Perhaps.
Sounds like a yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator. Senator, I know you're not engaged in this discussion, but I want to make sure that have I missed something here? So what this amendment would do is it would set up a system, if you own a wind turbine, that your property, as it's placed into service, would be originally assessed at 40% of the cost that it took to put that wind turbine up.
Okay.
Now, Senator, you own a home, I own a home. When we built that home, do you know by chance if we had...
There are 3 senators standing. Senator from Shelby, for reason you rise.
Would you send that amendment back?